What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back in the video. Today we're going over every running back that I like drafting right now, taking into account both their upside as a player, along with what it actually costs to get them in drafts. To start off with, every single running back in rounds 1 and 2 is a good pick. In half PPR leagues, I have them ordered as Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey, little bit of a tier break into Genti in the end of round 1, then in round 2, Henry, Achane, Bucky, JT, Chase Brown, and Jacobs. Every single one of those running backs is a strong pick. And I have no issues if you want to kind of shift that order around a little bit. I think the ones I listed off as that top tier are the top tier. I think what I have in round 1 is correct. But I don't really have any problems if you want to shift things around a little bit. Like if you want to take Chase Brown ahead of Bucky Irving, go for it. If you want to take even Gibbs over Saquon, I think that's totally fine. Moving around a little bit. I wouldn't take Chase Brown like first overall, but again, it's fine to move any of those running backs around a few spots. And I would do that. If you have a strong take, you think that Chase Brown is going to be a top 5 running back, don't sit there, look at some rankings and be like, well, he has Bucky Irving projected for 3 more points. Take Chase Brown. Take the guys in rounds 1 and 2 that you have a very confident take in. You should never be drafting someone in the first 2 rounds you have a problem with, especially Achane. I've got a lot of questions about Achane recently, being like, Nick, I'm really concerned about the calf injury. If you're super concerned about your second round pick, just do not draft that player in round 2. Of course, where I have them ranked is taking different things into account. I'm, of course, taking the calf injury into account here. And as we'll go over later on in this video, if you take Achane, take Ollie Gordon after that. But then obviously way after that. But again, if you don't feel confident in a player in rounds 1 or 2, there are so many. I just lifted off a ton of running backs. Go running back. I would say you probably want to get at least one of those running backs in the first 2 rounds. The only time I'd go wide receiver is end of round 1. If at the end of round 1 you can get like Nico and Puka or like Neighbors and Amon-Ra, you can like lock in 2 clear round 1 wide receivers, I would do that and then definitely target the next couple running backs we go over. But that's the only time I would do it. In all other scenarios, I would try and leave rounds 1 and 2 with at least 1 running back. At times, you could do 2. So, pick things up in round 3. Favorite round 3 running back by far is Martin Hampton. Elite offense, elite quarterback, elite coaching. I still think an average offensive line. I know they had the Slater injury. That hurts a ton, but I think they go from kind of like that 7 to 10 range down to maybe a little bit below average. Kind of remains to be seen how these pieces move around and how they play this season. But I've seen people say they're like bottom 5 now, and I don't think that's the case. Again, I wouldn't use their offensive line as a negative. I think it's still good enough because of the scheme they have, because of the players they have, the coaching they have. I still think it's good enough to consider that like not a negative, right? This isn't like Houston, right? Where we're sitting here like, okay, that's a huge negative to the team. Miami, it's a huge negative to the team. I don't think they're in that camp. But yeah, I mean, they have all of that. Najee, still can't see. They've got, unproven running backs behind that. Hampton is the very, very, very clear goal line running back. I don't care who is playing this season. Amari and Hampton is going to be the running back at the goal line. He's an athletic freak, 6 foot, 221 pounds, 94th percentile speed score. The biggest worry I see people have with him is receptions. They're like, well, Nick, this offense doesn't throw running backs. That's so overblown. Like Dobbins had 32 receptions last year in 10.5 games. If you look at half PPR scoring, the top 10 running backs in points per game, 7 of the 10, 70%, had 36 or fewer receptions. So again, in 10.5 games, Dobbins last year, who, let's be honest, going into last year, didn't have that many receptions in his career. It wasn't like he was going out there and always commanding like 7 targets a game. He still had 32 in 10.5 games. So I don't think he's going to have Hampton 70 receptions, but I don't think it matters. I'd be a little bit more worried if he was like a pass catching running back or something, like a pass catching specialist, and he was going over there. Well, I'd be like, okay, well, we know the carries aren't there, the goal line work won't be there, and now the receptions might not be there, but we do know those first 2. The carries will be there. He's going to be efficient on those carries. The touchdowns will be there on the ground. So he doesn't need 70 receptions to be a running back 1. He probably only needs 25 to 30, and he can be a running back 1. And I do think that is absolutely going to happen this season. He is amazing. You don't take a running back in round 1 with the pedigree that he has in the draft class that he was in, because this is a draft class where you could have gotten other really good running backs a little bit later on. They said, no, we want Hampton. That's a pick you center your offense around. And again, I think the Chargers offense is going to be awesome. I think they can overcome the Slater injury. Great pick whenever you can get him in round 3. In round 4, I have 2 loves, 2 running backs that I love. If you could get one of them in 4, one of them in 5, that would be fantastic and amazing. If you could start off with one of those, wide receiver starts, and then you got like Hampton, Ken Walker, Travion. If you could pull that off, that would be incredible. But yeah, Ken Walker, Travion are the 2 picks in round 4. And again, if you could get one in round 5, that would be amazing. Ken Walker is definitely the more risky option, right? Because he has struggled to stay healthy throughout his career leading up to this year. Then you have him missing a ton of time in camp with the lingering foot issue. He'd come back to camp, right? He's good to go right now. Whenever someone has a foot issue, misses a ton of time, then come back, it's not like the first day they're back, you're like, all right, he's good to go, right? He can't possibly get injured, can't possibly suffer any sort of setback. So it's still in the back of our minds. But I think that risk is mitigated by Sharps being there. If behind Ken Walker, you had a bunch of no ones, you'd be like, great, he's going to be the lead back. But if he gets hurt, I don't know what to do, because maybe they go to the committee. Well, we do know. We know that, if you told me that Ken Walker was going to be, fully healthy all 17 games, I would predict him to finish as probably a top 10 running back. I think that would be like the expectation is he's going to be a top 10 running back, and I would be probably taking him in round 2. But if you also told me that Ken Walker got hurt and that Sharps then takes over, I think Sharps might be a top 7 running back. And it's not that Sharps is better, it's that there would then be no one. I think Ken Walker is going to have a command of this backfield, be hyperly efficient, because he hasn't really been efficient thus far, but this current scheme that they have in Seattle, the one they're implementing this season, just beautifully fits Ken Walker with both receptions and just efficiency on the ground. So I think he's the lead back. I think he gets a ton of work, but I think Sharps mixes in, because Sharps is also a good running back. They love him in pass protection, so he could be someone they mix in 2 and 4 minute offenses at times. And it's going to be so efficient, they're going to want to run the ball so much that you don't want to give Ken Walker 30 touches a game. So Sharps is going to mix in. But I don't think anyone mixes in. Like, if Ken Walker gets hurt and Sharps is out there, I think he gets like 95, 100% of the touches. And so that's why it's like, okay, there's not as much risk, because you just take Ken Walker in round 4. You take Charbonnet, I think, enlisted in round 9, but we'll go over it a little bit later on. You take both of them, you lock in running back 1 all season long, and you don't even care. Like, if Ken Walker goes down, you're like, that's unfortunate. We didn't hope that it happened, but I have someone here who's probably going to be more valuable than Ken Walker was, so you just slide Charbonnet right in. It is a must draft. If you draft Ken Walker, you have to draft Charbonnet, but again, we'll go over that a little bit more later on. But yeah, the scheme is just built for Ken Walker. If he can stay healthy, he will return probably first round value, but I would take him. If you told me 17 games, I'd take him in round 2. That's how often he's going to be. And like, you think about his career, he had 46 receptions in 11 games last year. His 17-week pace, if you just like take all of his games and like put it into a 17-game schedule, is nearly 1,350 yards and nearly 11 touchdowns. Like, he's been really good, and now the scheme is improved. Man, if he can stay healthy, he's going to be awesome. But again, hasn't stayed healthy thus far in his career, has this lingering foot issue. So if you want the safer play, it is Travion Henderson. Comes with, I would say, a little bit less upside, because, and it's really tough for me to say that, but I think it's just because, like, even though they improved the offensive line, it's still not going to be like insanely good. The scheme is going to be much better than last year, but I still probably prefer the Seattle scheme for running back. So it may be a little bit more upside, and especially like, you have a year 4 player versus a rookie. So not much more, but I think more upside for Ken Walker. But especially in a full PPR league, like, they're going to pepper Travion Henderson with targets. Stevenson isn't a bad running back, but he's such a just between the tackles grinder that like can catch the ball, but is never going to like break off a long play. Even when you like see a huge hole, it's like, given the exact same blocking, I think a lot of the time, maybe Stevenson, Henderson, maybe get a similar amount of yardage. It's just that when there's a hole, and that's the biggest part of the NFL right now, is you need explosiveness at running back, because it's so important hitting on these explosive plays that teams are looking for it more and more. That Stevenson hits that hole and gets 10, Henderson hits that hole and scores an 80-yard touchdown. And like, they're going to notice that very early in the season. They already, I think, notice it. If you kind of watch them play right now in camp and the preseason and everything, like, he's going to be so unbelievably good in this offense, and it's not going to happen every play. It's not going to be busting off 80-yard touchdowns every play. But because he has that upside, it really helps out. And there's already reports that, like, to open the season, he might be getting more than half the snaps or more than half, like, the early down work. And that's the big thing. It's like, you already know he's so much better in pass protection as a pass catcher that, like, Travion Henderson's going to be the pass catching back, which is great on New England because they're a good offense, but they're still going to be trailing a lot this season. If he's also getting more than half the workload on early downs, that was something we were hoping would happen towards the end of the season. If it starts out that way, you have a world here where he starts pushing 60, 70, 75% of the total opportunity in this backfield. And if that happens, there's no possible way that he's going to fail in fantasy. Like, given that many touches, how good of a player he is, and the receiving workload he's going to have, it's impossible for him to not be a good pick in fantasy. And you'll love hearing that from even a 4th round player. So again, those two are really who I would want in that range. I don't see any league winners in round 5, but again, if any of those 3 fall into round 5, obviously grab them. In round 6, I think it's pretty clearly RJ Harvey. Every running back I mentioned before this to start the video, I love to start the season. I think you can throw in there in week 1, fully trust them. Maybe not to be a top 5 running back, and we've been over 1 million running backs already so far, but I trust them in running back 1 or running back 2 in week 1. I will do the week 1 projections, I don't know, in the upcoming days, kind of start the first run of that. But I don't think RJ Harvey is going to end up in the top 25. Again, that's off the top of my head. I don't even really know, like, exactly what I'm going to do there. But I don't think he's going to be, a running back 2 to start off with. The case for Harvey is long-term. Dobbins cannot stay healthy. Denver has my number 2 rated offensive line. They have a top 3 defense, an explosive offense. So they're going to get up. Teams won't be able to score on them. They'll have a great offensive line. It is run in the second half and score a lot of touchdowns. Sean Payton backfields always have 1 million running back targets. And we know that Harvey is the explosive running back that teams are looking for right now. The only worry here is Dobbins, because I think they like Dobbins more as a passing down back. I think they're trying to keep him healthy because they want to have this 2-back system. But the system was also good enough for 2 productive running backs. And this team, this offensive system, this offensive environment is good enough to have 2 running backs, maybe not 2 running back 1s in fantasy, but 2 running back 2s in fantasy. And for where you're getting him in round 6, you'll totally take running back 2 production. And again, Dobbins can't stay healthy. Like, you hate to call guys injury prone, but I think Dobbins is the one we can all agree is he's played 37 games in his career out of a possible 85. So on average thus far through 5 years, 7.5 games played, 9.5 games missed per season. Like, he's one season all year, or one season in his entire career with less than 4 games missed. So he's missed at least 4 games in every single year of his career besides his rookie season, where he still missed a couple of games. Like, you're taking Harvey for that ceiling, for the chance that it's like, okay, to start the year, they're splitting. Maybe he's not getting passing down work. Maybe he only projects for like 10 or 11 touches in week 1. If he doesn't score a touchdown, you're probably not going to be pumped about the production. But in round 6, it's possible, but unlikely you need to play him at running back 2. So you slide him into the flex spot and you wait a couple weeks into the season and you just think about the second half of the year when this offense is flowing, when he's trusted a little bit more in pass protection, when Dobbins is injured, and you're like, holy cow, I'm getting 70% of the workload on an unbelievable offense behind a great offensive line, on a team that's running the ball a ton in the second half, on a player that I didn't know he was this explosive. He has top 10 upside in the second half of the year, not in week 1, but we're drafting to win in the second half of the season. I want to note that Harvey is the only player, only running back I'm going to include in rounds 5, 6, or 7 in this video. That range is a gold mine for wide receivers. So unless you're drafting Harvey in round 6 or another running back that I mentioned falls into round 5, your main targets in rounds 5 through 7 should be, in order, Ted McMillan, George Pickens, Devonta Smith, Jamison Williams, Jalen Waddle, Calvin Ridley, Travis Hunter, Rome Odunze, Rashee Rice, dependent on your kind of risk level, how many bench spots you have. Not as much in a 5 bench spot league, but as you move to 6, definitely 7. It helps a little bit more. But then after Rice, I would say Egbuka, Pearsall, and Olave. Every single one of the wide receivers I just mentioned is a phenomenal pick this season. I would want to, in that range 5 through 7, be loading up on those wide receivers as much as possible. Again, unless Hampton, Henderson, Walker, or Harvey fall to that range. And I would say probably in the order I just listed. I would not be drafting tight end there. I would not be drafting quarterback there. Focus on wide receiver. It is the best range for wide receiver. So the next time I would look for running back is round 8, where I'd focus on Jaylen Warren and Jordan Mason. Caleb Johnson is going to open as a backup running back. He's going to have 0 role in the receiving game all season. If you started wide receiver heavy and you're like, I don't love how thin I am at running back, Jaylen Warren is a phenomenal pick because he's probably going to start the season with his most value. So in these semi RB0 builds, I probably wouldn't go full RB0, but if you drafted wide receiver, and you happen to miss out in rounds 3, 4, 5 at some of these running backs we're talking about, it's unfortunate, but it's possible that occurs. And maybe you're like, you know what, I'm going all in. I'm drafting Kittle. I'm drafting an elite quarterback. I'll figure out the running back position. Warren's great to go after because, again, he's going to have receptions to start out. He's going to have probably the lead on early downs to start out the season. So he's going to have a lot of value early on, especially in a full PPR league. But it gives you time, right? It gives you a couple weeks to be like, okay, does a running back hit on the waiver wire? Do we have some buy low options? Like maybe Travion Henderson goes out there and does nothing, right? He just gets stonewalled. He drops a couple passes. He fumbles the ball. They bench him. Like something happens where it's like, okay, still a great player, but some things occur where the production isn't there and people panic and we can buy low. Like that is going to happen on a couple of running backs this season. So Warren just gives you that opportunity to get a good month into the season where I trust him at running back 2. I bet you Jaylen Warren's going to project as running back 2, and he goes this late in the draft. So gives you time, especially in a full PPR league, to figure out the position. But it's like also, I think Caleb Johnson's probably going to work out long term. But if Caleb Johnson didn't exist, Jaylen Warren is valued probably at like a 3rd or a 4th round pick. He'd probably go in round 4. But let's not pretend, like, again, I think he's going to be good, but let's not pretend like Caleb Johnson is like some locked in prospect where it's like, there's no way he could possibly fail. Like, he's still a 3rd round rookie running back that can't pass protect and doesn't have that great receiving like chops, even if he could pass protect. So it is not like they have to get this kid onto the field. There's no possible way that Jaylen Warren is just the best running back on this team. It is going to be featured all season, but like, is the running back 1? So that outcome still exists where maybe all season you can rely on him at running back 2 again, especially in a full PPR league. And to get him this late, I mean, that's a lot of upside to have and a lot of safety to have and a lot of potential for your team, again, if you start off wide receiver heavy. Jordan Mason, I would say, other guy here, ultimate upside pick. So if I was choosing between the two, I would definitely go with Warren in a full PPR league. Again, if you start off wide receiver heavy. If you start off more running back heavy, maybe you're in a half PPR league and you're like, I don't need this guy for the first month of the season. Maybe you lean a little bit more towards Jordan Mason because he's got that upside maybe the second half of the year. You got Aaron Jones turning 31 in December. Maybe he starts to fall off. Aaron Jones also coming off, the most touches of his career. He's someone that has struggled at times to stay healthy, has been someone that teams have pointed to. I mean, the Packers literally got rid of him and went to Josh Jacobs because they didn't think he could hold up to a full season of workload. We know that they're frustrated with the inefficiency at the goal line last season. There's a lot of indicators here to where like Jordan Mason might have a very large role in this team. It's a team with a top 5 defense, a top 7 offensive line. It's a combination I love talking about because it's like you want that outcome where you look at the game and you're like, ooh, they're 9-point home favorites projected to score 27 points this week. They're probably, again, Vegas is telling us they're going to get up in the second half. They're going to be winning. Well, I want a good offensive line because I want the coaching staff to trust they can put someone back there and just pound the rock and just continue gaining yards. And a great defense because even when teams drop back and try and catch up, if they're winning by multiple scores in the second half, it is a run offense. And that's what we want from Jordan Mason, right? The Aaron Jones game is going to be times where they fall behind. They're still scoring, but like they need to play a little bit more aggressively on offense. But I think the Vikings are going to be awesome this season. And so if there's more of those Jordan Mason games, well, that's going to really benefit us, in round 8 of drafts. And then, of course, you have the upside of if Aaron Jones got hurt, Jordan Mason is very clearly their only other running back that's competent, and so he'd have a great workload. And again, I bring up these stats a lot. I know it's a relatively small sample size, but among 46 running backs last season with at least 100 rush attempts, Jordan Mason ranked second in explosive run rate, third in yards after contact per rush attempt, sixth in forced missed tackles per attempt. I know that this is on San Francisco, and you're like, well, maybe the scheme is just really good in San Francisco, and any running back could put up these numbers. I think that could be the case, maybe explosive run rate, but it's like yards after contact, forcing missed tackles. I mean, that's a running back stat, like forcing missed tackles. That's not the scheme. That's just him getting away from defenders. So I do think he's a good running back. I don't think it's a lock that he's some amazing running back, but you don't have to be the best running back in the NFL on this team, in this scheme, if you became the starter with an injury, to put up really high numbers. So I think he could be a league winner if there's an injury. And again, I think he can provide you weekly value and specific value, right? When they play bad teams, when they're 6-7 point home favorites, that's going to be the Jordan Mason game. That's going to be when he's going to project well and be someone that we're really excited to start. In round 9, again, Charbonnet, for all the reasons we went over before. Again, he is a must-draft player if you draft Ken Walker. You have to reach around, probably take him in round 8. Just make sure you get Charbonnet onto your team. But even if you don't have Ken Walker, again, I think Ken Walker is a better scheme fit for Seattle and is probably a top 10 running back when healthy. But there is a world here where the foot injury is a problem, where another injury becomes an issue, to where even if you only told me you got 1 month where Ken Walker misses this season, to get probably a top 7 running back for a month is extraordinarily valuable when you can get him this late in draft. So even if you don't get Ken Walker, you're not reaching on Charbonnet, but I think he's a phenomenal pick anyway, whether you have Ken or don't have Ken. After Charbs, I think you're going to hit a tier break. I'm not super interested in the running backs going after him, like directly after him. So it's a good time to say, okay, I've loaded up at running back and receiver. I don't have a ton. I don't have a quarterback. So go to those positions. Maybe if a really high-end wide receiver falls and you want another one, go after them. But I would say this is a range after Charbonnet where you want to be focusing on quarterback and tight end. After that, I'd probably wait until this general 11 to 13 range if you wanted to go, rounds 10 and 11 at quarterback and tight end, maybe even 10, 11, 12, like this general 11 to 13 range. That's when I'd look back at running back, and my top targets would be, in order, Bashal Tutin, Braylon Allen, and Jaden Blue. All three offer very unique ceiling cases and downside risks. Obviously, we're at a point of the draft right now where you are shooting for the moon because most of these guys are going to bust anyways. And when you are in, rounds 10 plus, we might think we know what's going to happen, but a lot of these picks, I think I did a study one time and it's like down at 25, 30% chance that you have of even getting a start-worthy option at a skill position this late. So it is likely most of your picks from this point will bust. And so why not target people who you would actually start, actually be excited about starting if they do hit? You don't want to hit and then get someone who's like a super low-end starter, right? I think Tutin's most talented among these three, and he's on the best offense. So naturally, he's going to be the most appealing on the list. Of course, Etienne, Tank Bigsby, they offer very strong touch competition. And so to start the season, I don't think Bashal Tutin is going to be a lead back. I don't think he's someone you can trust in your starting lineup. He's probably going to be someone who you could target early in the season as a buy low. But that's probably the case for most of the running backs going this late. But Tutin is far too talented to be kept on the sidelines. The new staff knows that, right? They came in, Liam Cohen comes in, he looks at Etienne, looks at Tank Bigsby, and that's like a good enough duo to get by. If you really thought those two were decent running backs, you could totally have an offense run through just those two. But he still decided to use a very early 4th round pick on Tutin, and I just don't think Tutin is the type of player you draft if you planned on using Etienne and Tank Bigsby. Like, this could be a future move for 2026 because they're definitely not signing Etienne long term, but it's like Tutin is the best combination. He's a great early down back. He's highly explosive and also good in the receiving game and forcing missed tackles. It's like those are aspects of Etienne and Tank Bigsby's game, but neither one of them can do both. And so I just don't see how you draft Tutin and you have an intention of just benching him all season. This was a great running back class, but like he was one of the better prospects in this class. It would just be so weird to not be using him. So I think he's going to have a role, again, not in week 1, but by midpoint of the season, down the stretch where it matters the most, where people are finally breaking out, I think he's too much talent. And this offense, I just think Jacksonville's going to be such a good offense this season to where he could be a monster breakout this year. I would want him on my bench. Braylon Allen, probably the next most appealing because every report out of Jets camp indicates that he looks awesome. He's going to have a role, a locked-in role in week 1. I still think Breece Hall is the better running back, but Braylon Allen has 2 outs. Like either Breece Hall gets hurt at some point, or just like, I don't know, isn't as good, I guess, as we think. I just don't think that's really an outcome, but gets hurt at some point or is traded away because I think other teams are like, what are you doing? Breece Hall is a great running back, and maybe they'd give up something for him. So I think that's a possibility. I think the injury is a possibility. Most running backs in this range only have injury as the possibility, so it's a little bit of a better chance that Braylon Allen can break out. And if that occurs, you would have the lead running back on, even though it's a bad offense, one of the most run-heavy teams in the NFL. So even though the Jets won't score a lot, they'll be winning a lot. If they run the ball at a top 3, top 4 rate in the league, that still just leads to so much volume that now you can just hit off the volume. Again, I prefer Tootin because I think Tootin is better. I think that the Jaguars are a better offense than the Jets, but it's hard to deny the drumbeat for Braylon Allen, who's still an incredibly young running back. He was a super young rookie last season, one of the youngest rookie running backs I think we've ever seen. Then Jaden Blue, I probably have the least confidence in his touches, especially early on, especially when he has, this like the heel injury, then the ankle injury. He's back at practice from the ankle injury, so it doesn't look like it's a problem. But having these injuries, missing some time, I think it's super unlikely Blue goes out there and has a large role in week 1. But I truly don't think that Javonte Williams or Miles Sanders are any good. I am recording this on Tuesday before it's around noon, before all the cuts have gone through. So I do think Dallas is a situation where like we're going to learn something here in the afternoon. So I'll pin a comment if something really changes. I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if Miles Sanders were cut, like if he didn't make the team, right? Because I think Maffa looks pretty solid. Blue, I think just objectively, every time he touches the ball, you're like, that is explosiveness that is not on this roster. So my gut says they go with Javonte, Blue, Maffa, and then I don't know, like if they're going to go like a different running back besides Miles Sanders at that 4 spot. Again, check it. I don't think it'll make a huge difference, but I don't believe in Javonte Williams. I don't believe Miles Sanders. Honestly, I'd be more scared of Maffa at this point as a running back. And so if you want to take Maffa in like the final round of like a deep league, a 12-team, 7-bench spot, 14-team, 16-team league, go after Maffa. For those of you 8, 10-team leagues, even 12-team leagues with 5 or 6 bench spots, don't touch Phil Maffa. But I think he could be something in super deep leagues. But anyways, I think Jaden Blue is just the forcing missed tackles, the explosiveness, the 2 things we look for. On a team, like maybe I wouldn't give Jaden Blue 20 carries, but Dallas has, not that great of a defense, playing its own, highly explosive offense. Like he just fits them more. He's someone that's almost like a Tony Pollard. You know how Tony Pollard we love because he was so efficient in that offense, getting all these receptions and stuff like that. But it was like you were never giving Tony Pollard, now Tennessee does, but Dallas was never giving him a ton of touches. I feel like Blue could kind of be that. Someone that, we don't expect to get 17, 18 carries, but if he had 8 to 10 carries and he was always getting like 5 or 6 targets every week, and being used as kind of a weapon in the red zone, being explosive and efficient on these touches, he would be someone that we'd be very interested in at this point of the draft. So again, not someone that's like a 30-touch guy, but someone that I think in the second half of the season can kind of earn the trust a little bit more. I think the biggest thing is pass protection. If he can earn the trust in pass protection, then there's no reason for Javonte Williams to be out there. Because the only reason Javonte is like on the team right now is because he's great in pass protection. He's not really good at anything else. So if Jaden Blue can win that job, then he's got a better chance at a breakout. After this range, it is pretty much only dart throws. I would say Ollie Gordon is, a really strong dart throw right now. He was the best running back in college football in 2023. He is better than Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright also going to miss time now with an injury. There's a chance that Achane misses time with injury. So, there's a world here where you're getting a starting running back in the later rounds. And if you took Achane, definitely have to draft Ollie Gordon. But even if you don't draft Achane, Ollie Gordon, still just a running back who could be starting for a team in week 1, is super explosive. Probably not much of a passing down back, but someone who can just rip off a long play, just a bowling ball, someone that I was talking about early in the season being like, this is a guy who could take the goal line job away from Achane and kind of hurt Achane's value in that way. And so I don't know. I just think like there's a lot of baked in upside for different outs here for Ollie Gordon. So he'd be someone to go after. Woody Marks also be a strong target. There's absolutely a chance that Joe Mixon doesn't play this season. Nick Chubb looks very, very cooked. Dameon Pierce, like, I don't know, he's always been a disappointment. Like, he's someone that like always gets injured at the wrong time, or always finally gets the job and then gets like 10 carries for 12 yards. And you're like, what the heck? How'd that even occur? So there's a world here where Woody Marks kind of ascends in this offense. He's definitely the best passing back. Like, even if you throw in Mixon there, probably like between Dameon Pierce and Chubb, there's no pass catching ability at all. So Woody Marks right away is probably going to have the passing down role. Limited upside just because of unlikely he's featured, right? They're still probably going to give Chubb and Pierce some touches. And then the offensive line, right? The offensive line is really, really bad in Houston. So limited upside for Woody Marks, but still a potential that is someone that you're starting if he ascends, kind of becomes like a 1B behind just an early down grinder and kind of mixes in as a change of pace back and also receptions. That would be valuable in fantasy. Again, limited upside though, because the Texans line stinks, but their scheme should be better this year. So hopefully that makes up for it. Aside from that, go with your gut. Think about upside. Think about what is the path for this running back doing something. Ideally, I would want my entire running back room to come from the list of players that I mentioned today, again, along with every single running back that goes in rounds 1 or 2. If you can't, just try and get as many of the running backs I talked about today as possible. If you do have a draft coming up, I highly recommend you not only read the must draft list on my website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com, but draft with the rankings as well. If you use them, you'll get a lot of these players, a lot of great info over there as well. So again, highly recommend you check it out. If you have done your draft already, but maybe you're itching to do a couple more, but kind of don't want that, whole joining 7 or 8 redraft leagues thing where it's like now you have to do the waivers and the trades and the start sit every single week for all these leagues, and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't have enough time to do that. Then sign up for Underdog. I love best ball because you can just draft a ton of teams, but you don't have to set 50 lineups every week. I've been in years where it's like I'm in way too many redraft leagues and it's a nightmare, and it kind of takes the fun out of it at times. But if you're just in a ton of best ball drafts, you can do a lot of drafts and just sit back and watch your teams dominate all season long. So if you want to do a couple more drafts, sign up for your first Underdog account today with promo code FFA. If you do that and join at least one draft, then you can not only get my Underdog and draft rankings for the draft season, but you get my in-season rankings, in-season detail projections as well, all for free. It'll be the following morning. So if you sign up right now when watching the video, the following morning, I'll email you login information to the website, and you'll have that all season long. All right. Please leave a like if you are still here. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new while you're down there. It really helps me out. But that'll do it for this one, and thank you all for watching.